where can I get a tracker, a weather station, messaging, navigation, and emergency beacon all in one? Hey, this is Chad with BeGoneForGood. Today we're going to be talking about the Garmin InReach Discovery Plus. Now it does all of these things, some really well, some not so much, but we're going to go through each one in detail. When it comes to tracking, it's a fantastic tracker. You can get anywhere from 10 minutes of spot points to 2 minutes down to 30 seconds, 1 second, and various different options for how you can actually send that tracking to some sort of upload. But it will track you extraordinarily well through all sorts of different terrain. As long as you have a decent view of the sky while you're going, you can send that up and get that tracking out to other people at the same time. So as a tracker, it's phenomenal. As an emergency beacon, it's an amazing device. There's one button, boom. As soon as you hit it, an SOS call goes out to whatever service that's operating in your area at that time. Obviously, internationally, it's a little bit different than in the States or in the wilderness versus on the road. All that's taken care of by the system. Because of the opportunity for the InReach to have back and forth, they may actually get in touch with you also and find out the nature of your emergency. If it's just being stranded, if you're injured, how bad is the injury, is there any details they need to know about what they should bring, or how precarious your circumstance is if you're on the side of a mountain or if you're in a gully, whatever. They're going to ask you some of that information via text. It doesn't mean they're not going to send anything if you don't answer. All you have to do is push the SOS button and you're good to go. Fantastic option for an emergency beacon. When it comes to messaging, now messaging, again, as long as you have vision to the sky somehow, so heavy clouds, heavy canopy as far as a forest is concerned, some of that stuff could impede your signal a little bit, but as long as you have that clear view of the sky, you can send messages back and forth easily with this device. Now I will tell you that if you want to be able to send messages back quickly, you're probably going to want to piggyback with the app for your phone in this device, because it's just a singular button on the actual device to be able to pick letters, so it can be a little bit cumbersome. Takes a long time to actually type out a message more than like okay. But you can do it. As soon as you hop over to the app on the phone, you can type just as you normally would any text message. It sends it to the device, which then broadcasts it and your message gets out. As soon as the message comes back, you can read it on your phone and go through there. So it connects with your phone seamlessly, and as soon as that is done, it makes the whole messaging aspect of this device super, super nice. Another feature on here is the weather station capabilities. Now, again, depending on what plan you have, they can charge you for this or it can be included in your plan, but it's the ability to send out a daily message or a daily inquiry into what the weather's going to look like. Now, this is really nice when you don't know where you're at. Obviously, if you're in Cleveland or New York or LA, it's really easy just to pull up an app and say, okay, hey, what's the weather going to be like in LA? But if you're in the middle of nowhere and you don't have any idea how to identify your location to a weather service, it's difficult to get a weather report for that area unless it knows your GPS coordinates to the nose. And that's what this device will do. It'll take exactly where you're at and give you the weather report for that spot, for that day, the next few hours, anything that you need. And it's really great to know when that rain's gonna stop, if maybe you just stay in the tent for a little bit longer, or if you have rain ahead of you and maybe you just wanna set up camp a little bit early, or if there's any bad conditions that are headed your way, storms, snow, anything like that. It's a great thing to have when you're out on the road and you're traveling and you don't know exactly where you're at, but you need to know the weather for wherever you're going. Phenomenal, phenomenal device for that. Now, the only thing it doesn't do so well, and really it's not a downfall of the device as much as it is a downfall of the way that we use that device, is navigation. Now, if you're hiking or walking, it's a perfectly acceptable navigator. It'll do exactly what you need to do. It gives you exactly where you're at, exactly your coordinates all the time, and it's got a little map so you can follow your contour lines or follow your trail or whatever you're on very, very easily. The problem is it's only a 2.3-inch screen, so even if you mount this on your bike and you're riding along, it's shaking and it's super tiny and it's not particularly bright when you're out in the sun, so there's almost zero chance you're going to be able to see the little lines on there that designate roads or trails or the direction you need to go. It's nearly impossible to navigate by this unless you want to be nose down in the screen at 35 or 50 miles an hour on the trail, which is a terrible idea. Don't do that. It does work as a navigator if you want to get off the bike and figure out where you're at and go, okay, hey, we got to go that direction. It's got a compass included. It's great for that. Just don't expect to be able to read it or utilize it while you're on the bike, while you're moving. It's not going to cut it. For that, you're going to need a full GPS. You're going to need your phone. I navigate with my phone, so it's not that big of a deal that I can't use that little 2.3-inch screen. Everything else it does is more than acceptable for me. Now, the other element that has to be brought in that you have to think about when it comes to this device is the service plans, because otherwise what you have is basically just an individual device that doesn't really talk to anything else. It can still track, as somebody mentioned from a previous video, you can still track, you can still set waypoints, and if you personally are the only one who needs to use it, it can do that just fine. You'll lose the messaging capability, you'll lose some of the other aspects of it that you might want, but you can track with it and then recover those tracks. Again though, probably not while you're riding because it's a super small screen. So, if you're going to get a service, there's two different offerings for you. There's annual plans, which charge you for a full 12 months of whatever your plan is, and there's different tiers, or there's what they call the Freedom Plan. Now, I personally have the Freedom Plan, which is a $35 yearly fee for this Freedom Plan. And that's before you've been charged for any of your tiers, but that's just the charge to be a part of the Freedom Plan. What the Freedom Plan allows you to do is pick and choose what months you actually want to be operational. And it's not necessarily like January or December, it's any 30-day period. So you sign up on the first day of your 30-day period and it ends on the 30th day. And if you don't want to sign up for that next 30 days, you don't have to. So you can turn it on and turn it off at whatever tier level you want. So if you just want to be riding on the roads and only want the emergency beacon capability, you can go for the lowest tier, which I want to say is $11.95, and just have the emergency beacon capability. It doesn't send messages, doesn't do any of that other stuff. I think it gives you 10 text messages that you can send during the course of that 30 days, so next to nothing. And a lot of the other features are toned down or tamped down pretty significantly. It's essentially just the emergency beacon. But if then you're going to be going on a road trip or off-road or need a little bit more capability, you can bump that up at any time during that year and get a lot more features to go along with it. Now there's an expedition plan, which is the one I generally use when I travel, which is pretty expensive. I want to say it's like $60 or $65 for that 30-day period, but it offers you unlimited tracking capabilities, unlimited uploads of those tracking capabilities. So if I'm tracking it every 2 minutes or every 30 seconds, so it's just bang, 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 bang all along my route, and I want to upload that to the computer or to the cloud every 3 minutes so people can follow along with exactly where I am on the trip, you can do that with the expedition plan. It also gives you unlimited messages back and forth. It gives you unlimited weather reports. It's wide open. Everything that you could possibly need for this device, you can get it with the expedition plan. It's costly, but again, if I'm only paying it once out of the year or 1 month out of the year, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal to me. Go over to the other side, on the annual side, and the prices get lower. So it's cheaper for each one of those tiers, but you're also paying for 12 months of it. So for those folks that are doing a round the world thing, or if you always want the capability of using that emergency beacon or always want to be able to message, then you can pick those other tiers and you're paying for it for a whole 365 days out of the year. There's a $29 activation fee no matter what plan you use just to get the device operational, but that's something that just comes along with the device. It's just part of ownership. So those are the costs, those are some of the tiers. I'll link below the actual plans so you can kind of read through and see what works best for you, but they are very accommodating in how they offer this for the seasonal riders or the one trip a year type of guys, and also the round the world people. So it's anything you need, you can get to the Garmin plans. Initially, when I looked at this device, I was really hesitant for such an expensive piece of gear that I wasn't entirely sure I needed or even wanted. But once I bought it and I finally pulled the trigger, I've never looked back. And here are the few of the personal reasons why it's become one of my greatest pieces of gear. One, the messaging. I love being able to be on the road and be in contact with my family. So at any time I can check in and say, hey, how are the kids doing? What's going on with this? Any emergencies that come up or anything that they need to get in touch with me for, it's immediate. there's no problems getting those messages in or out. And that has a lot to do with too, scheduling stuff. If I'm supposed to be meeting somebody someplace, I can always get those messages in or out. Doesn't matter if I have a cell signal, doesn't matter if I'm international, those messages can always get out and I can always receive messages back. And I love being in touch to some degree all the time. The other thing I really like is the tracking capability. So my family can always know where I'm at. When I did my trip all the way down to Honduras, it was great that when I was checking in at the end of the day, they could follow along. And because I was uploading so often, they knew exactly where we were within probably a couple of minutes of every stop that we made or every tracking point that we dropped along the way. So even to the point where one time when I was stopped at a gas station and I stopped to get some food, my dad gave me a call and was like, "Hey, is everything okay? Why are you stopped?" Because he could tell that that gas station I'd been at for about 40 minutes at that point. So it's just an amazing, remarkable piece of gear that information can be shared back and forth super fast. I also share it with my channel. So if you're a BeGoneForGood subscriber or want more information about our trips as we're going through, I send out a link before we go and you can track our progress through whatever trip it is that we're taking all the way through. You know exactly where we're stopping, you know the places that we've hit, the mile markers that we've got, all of it, because this thing has the tracking capabilities that work perfectly for the type of riding that I'm looking to do. The beacon and the insurance that go along with that are such a peace of mind element to my trips that I can't tell you how valuable that is. It's almost priceless. Whatever they charge for this, they could charge double, and what that value is would be worth it. And it's not necessarily because I do anything wildly dangerous or that I expect to ever have to use it, but just knowing that at any time, if things got really bad, went really sideways on us, you can hit that SOS button and you've got the option to bring somebody in. You can phone a friend, you can call for help as easy as hitting that SOS button. That is just huge in the type of riding that we do. Whether it's out off-roading in Utah in some really gnarly territory, or whether it's going internationally down to Honduras and riding at night in Mexico, like knowing that you've got the capability of sending out that SOS whenever you need it, it's a huge, huge aspect of this gear that I love. The fact that they have you piggyback specific insurance companies along with that, or insurance tiers along with that, that you can get that allow like flights out or different coverage capabilities, that's also awesome to know that it's all kind of a one-stop shop. You're taken care of for whatever trip you want. And again, the insurance is super, super cheap for what you're getting. It's $1 million coverage, $100,000 coverage, travel, all these other things that are included just because you're part of that Garmin group. It's a great option. The last thing that really appealed to me is the ultimate durability of this thing. I mean, it's a nice hard brick type object. You can feel it in your hand that this is a quality item. It's got weatherproofing up to, I want to say it's IPX7, and I don't know exactly how waterproof it is. I'm not throwing this in a lake anytime soon, but it's been out in some severe rain, no problems. It looks robust enough to handle any sort of dust or knocks or dings that you're going to get on a normal motorcycle trip. So I'm super happy with how tough it is. Also, the battery life on this thing is outrageous. If you charge at the beginning of the week and you're not doing crazy amounts of back and forth with the GPS, you can let that thing go for 5 to 7 days without any problems at all. In fact, I charge it before I leave it for 3 or 4 months, and when I turn it on, at most, it's lost a couple of points. So it might be at 97, 98%. Like, it holds a charge extraordinarily well, and it's extremely efficient with the power that's on hand. It's fantastic, super, super handy at all times. You never have to worry about charging it while you're on the road, or at least it's back of the mind at best. Now, for some of the downsides, and saying these are downsides is probably not entirely fair to the product itself, because they're not downsides as much as it is just kind of the nature of what it is. First off, as much as I love having my family in touch with me and being able to reach out and come back and forth often, sometimes that's not what somebody wants on a trip. You know, like if you're looking to get out and get away and not have people being able to constantly reach you, then maybe this isn't the greatest product for you. You know, like maybe you could get away with just a GPS or just a spot that has an emergency beacon, but not much else. That's probably something that you kind of got to figure out where you want that connection to exist. And if you're looking to get out there and just go totally, you know, full on Walden and nobody talks to me or anything, then then this might not be the right option for you, because there is that back and forth. Obviously, you can shut that off, you can eliminate, you can ignore it, but you're also buying a lot more product than you necessarily need if that's not something that appeals to you. The second thing is the expense. It is an expensive product. It sits at about $450 if you want to get the topo mask included, and that's just for the device itself. Then you've got the service on top of that, which can run, as I said, anywhere from 70, 80 bucks a year, given your freedom plan and whatever your month is, your activation fees, or if you go the full year with whatever annual it is, you're looking at least 120, 150 bucks for a base option. So it is rather expensive, but again, what you're getting is pretty robust if you need it or want it. The other downside, and I already talked about this a little bit, is the lack of navigation capabilities while you're riding. Just because it's too small of a screen, your bike's shaking too much, you're not gonna be able to read that screen well at speed, or at least not safely at speed. So it's not a great navigator. If they came out with a 5-inch screen or even a 7-inch screen version of this, I think it would sell like hotcakes. I don't know how big the product would have to be in order to make that happen, but if they sold a GPS sized version that also had the emergency beacon, I think there could be a lot of room for that being really the holy grail of beacons and navigators and all that. But the last one is that the buttons are rather small, and there's really only one button. It's a directional button that you can utilize in order to pick out letters and numbers while you're writing a message. Now, they've dealt with this by allowing you to piggyback over that app that I talked about, which essentially lets you type just like you type any other message on your phone. But you have to have that synchronization. You have to have those two items in hand in order to be able to make that messaging or that back and forth conversation a possibility, because it's not possible on the device itself. There are no keypads, there are no letters and numbers or QWERTY little keyboards there. It's just that directional thing. You're just clicking up and down and left and right to be able to get to letters on a digital keyboard. So it takes a long time to type a message just with the device. Use the app, no problem. So they've figured that one out, but you got to do that if you want to be able to type a message. Now, given all that, I would still suggest this is a must-have item. I know that there's a lot of hesitancy, again, because it is an expensive item, but I promise you, if you get this, you will never regret having it with you on whatever trips you're going on. There will never be a time where you'll look back and go like, oh man, I don't really need that. It's always good to have that emergency thing there. You wear a helmet, you don't necessarily need it. You wear a jacket, you don't necessarily need it. You have this device with you, you don't necessarily need it. But you will take a lot of comfort knowing that your SOS button is right there and available for you. And on top of that, it also helps in anybody that you're riding in the group with, right? If somebody else goes down, you can hit that SOS and somebody's still inbound. Now, insurance may be a little bit different for them depending on what sort of coverage they have, and it might not cover them for this, or flights out, or extreme difficulty in grabbing a person off the trail or up on a mountain, whatever. But they'll at least get the help they need when that emergency happens, and you will be the one who brings it there. This is just another tool in your tool bag. It is a fantastic item to have, and it never drops in value. It never drops in usage. It's always going to be the same value to you to be able to get messages out, to be able to have emergency beacons. It's always going to be good no matter what, especially with that battery life that goes forever. So that's it. That's my review of the Garmin InReach Discovery Plus. If you have any other questions for me, I tried to cover as much as I could. Leave a comment down below. I'll try to get back to you, or somebody else in the community obviously will. There's a lot of knowledge out there about these devices. There's a lot of people that are really into them. If you want, I've also let a link down below to the Garmin InReach. Sometimes they go on sale at that link, sometimes they don't. If you buy through that link, I also get a little kickback just for sending you to that store. It's a great option if you want to save a little bit of money and help out the channel as well. If you like this sort of content about the bikes, the tips, the tricks, the gear, definitely subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell so you get a notification anytime we upload a new video, and hit a thumbs up if you got something out of this InReach video. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for joining us in 2021. This is going to be a fantastic year. We're looking to get a ton of new videos out to you, going through all the gear that I've taken on all of my different trips. We're going to go through the bike. We've got a 25,000 mile review of the Africa Twin coming up, which I'm really excited about. We've got a new trip planned for 2021, which is going to take us all through the Bourbon Trail and Tennessee and Kentucky and off-road and on-road. We've got a bunch of other things planned because this year we're coming out again, and it's going to be absolutely on fire. Thank you very much for watching. Look forward to seeing you in the next one. Have a good one.